I wanted to watch this not knowing too much before I went in. This has been a learning experience for me as far as that is concerned, because that seemed like a good idea at the time. It did not seem like it was a good idea after I had watched it. It was so appropriate that I watched this right after reading H.P. Lovecraft, because both things are absolutely obsessed with orgies. I watched the movie Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom. This movie is listed as a horror/war film. It was made in 1975, so keep that in mind as we progress. Started off, I'm like, okay, the basic plot of this film is it takes place during World War II. You have these wealthy, powerful people who are a bunch of perverts, and they're like, what we want to do is we want to take a bunch of these kids, like teenagers, kids, and we're going to take them, we're going to make them live in this house with us, and we're going to torture them, and we're going to do a lot of weird stuff. So you understand why they're there and that they don't want to be there. They don't go along with it. It's just going to be even worse for them. And that's the plot. This movie is like 2 hours long. It's around like an average length movie. And the first 5 minutes masquerade as a plot or a setup for this film. This is not a movie. This is a fetish, softcore, spicy film is what this is. And it is masquerading as a normal film, masquerading as a horror. A horror film would insinuate that something scary is happening. No, it's not scary. There's nothing scary about this. It's just gross. Oh. Which is an element that can be used in horror, but there's nothing scary though. It's just gross. Nothing else happens besides just gross, spicy. I watched this movie and walked away just feeling like I had accidentally not watched a movie, that I had accidentally stumbled upon like just a slutty thing. And I was like, okay, I thought this was like, it's disturbing, but I thought this was like a horror film, so I must have made a mistake. So I went to Wikipedia, I went to Mr. Google, and it's like, no, not only is this a horror film, this is a war film. I'm like, is it though? And because just saying, hey, this is taking place during a war does not exactly make it a war film, in my opinion, but alas. This is actually loosely based off of something written by the Marquis de Sade that was also called The 120 Days of Sodom. Like, okay, I do not know a ton about the Marquis de Sade, but I've heard of him, and I know that he, that it makes sense. Also, upon looking at this Wikipedia article, I was shocked to see there were people trying to talk about like the symbolism in it, that it was a metaphor for modern society, that, oh, do you remember this part in the movie where they made them eat feces? Well, that's sort of like the way the government makes its citizens eat bullshit. Look, I'm sorry. Okay, let's just be real here. You're telling me that you watched this movie. There's no plot. There's 5 minutes of setup in the beginning of the movie, and the rest is just smut. There is not a goddamn person on the planet who watched this movie and afterwards was like, just watching those kids eat poop and be like tortured and having like their nipples burnt. It all just like really made me think about like capitalism. It did not. I don't believe you. This isn't even a matter of, oh, different opinions. No, you're lying. I don't believe you. I don't believe that you thought of anything. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. I just do not understand. I don't see it. I feel like I don't know how this got through as like a movie. This was made in 1975. So you have to figure spicy adult content was harder to come by in general, but especially extreme fetish stuff like this, right? Yeah, it's based off of a book that already existed, but as far as seeing a visual thing like this, you couldn't just Google search it, right? And even if you could get access to like the spicy magazines, the average magazine wasn't going to have stuff like this in it. Who would watch this these days? Who is looking for something like this? Because if you wanted to see this, you could just find the real thing online. Like, you don't have to look at this like fake version. I can't imagine anybody watching this movie for the cinematic experience. I do not believe you. This is for a group of people, but it's not for a group of people who are looking for a horror movie. So if you're looking for something that's gross and then yeah, I guess this could do it for you. If you're just like, I really want gross. It's not because I can't stand gross, like I watched it, but that's the thing, because there's no plot. I would sit there and be horrified for 15 seconds and then I kept yawning because there's no plot and it gets boring.
I signori sanno che le loro disposizioni sono per noi legge e che ogni loro desiderio è un ordine che siamo ben lieti di eseguire. Ho provveduto infatti a nutrire le creature che ritenevo più idonee.
You're just seeing the same thing over and over again, and at some point you can't up the ante anymore. There's really no gore in the movie at all until like the very end, and even then it's pretty minimal. Even the things that are supposed to be intense get boring because they max out the gross factor, and then it's okay, where do you go from here? You know, and nothing after that really has like an impact anymore. After the movie was done, my initial reaction was to feel embarrassed. I felt embarrassed. I was watching it alone, but because I thought I had made a mistake, I thought that this was like a real movie. I saw this one on the lists for most disturbing films of all time, and it's supposed to be scary and disturbing, and again, not that it's not disturbing, it is. It's disturbing, but not in an interesting way. I was annoyed. That's what I was. I was annoyed because I spent time watching this movie being under the impression that it was something that it wasn't, because I thought it was a movie. And it's just the longest, most dragged out, repetitive, like soft core. It's not even real porn. It's not even real. It's not even like real spice. It's fake spice. So you have a fake spicy movie that, you know, is really gross and boring at the same time. Why am I here? Like, filled with regret. Sorry, I didn't maybe have a little more nuance, but that's just genuinely how I feel, so I don't know what to tell you. If you're still here, somehow, some way, if you're still here, thank you. I really do appreciate it. And maybe I'll see you the next time around. Bye. It kind of reminds me of my poor mother. She's so sweet, and she heard of the movie Caligula, and she knew it had that actor in it. His name escapes me, but he was in A Clockwork Orange, and so he was in Caligula, and so she's like, "Oh, maybe you should watch it." And I don't know if you know Caligula, but that movie is literally not soft, just regular old porn, just porn. She did not know when she recommended that to her daughter. An interesting experience to start watching that upon her recommendation, and to quickly discover that not only did it have actual sexy times in it, so much. I actually didn't finish that movie. which I rarely will stop a movie in the middle of it and just not finish it. But that I did in that case. Um, so I let her know for future reference, and she was she was just mortified. I don't know. I don't remember why she thought it was just a regular movie. I guess because it had like this legit actor in it, right? Like, I, um, so this kind of brings me back to that a little bit, where it's just like, oh, this isn't like it's just sort of pretending to be a movie.